IVM. Hello, welcome and Khushamadid. Before I introduce the guest this time on the note, I need to give a certain context to the conversation that I'm about to have. The conversation today is about the controversial domicile law that has been passed in the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir. Just to give you some knowledge and information on this, on 31st March this year, the Home Ministry issued the Jammu and Kashmir Reorganization Order 2020. By issuing this order, the government amended about 109 existing laws and repealed 29 existing laws of the former state of Jammu and Kashmir. Remember, on August 5 last year, the government had abrogated Article 370, which gave certain privileges and rights to the state of Jammu and Kashmir. It was a state back then. Now, through one of the laws repealed earlier this year in March, there was one that was pertaining specifically to government jobs in Jammu and Kashmir. And for this law, the amendment by the government says that the Home Ministry replaced the word permanent residents with domiciles. So, to put it very simply, earlier those who were born in Jammu and Kashmir were called the permanent residents of Jammu and Kashmir. Now they would be called as domiciles, according to the Home Ministry's law. The order was approved by the Union Cabinet, chaired by the Prime Minister, on the 30th of May. Now, the order defines domiciles as anyone, quote, who has resided for a period of 15 years in the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir or has studied for a period of 7 years and has appeared in class 10th or 12th examinations in an educational institution situated in the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir, or who is registered as a migrant by the Relief and Rehabilitation Commissioner. Now remember, before this law was passed, and before the abrogation of Article 370, nobody outside the state of Jammu and Kashmir, born outside the state of Jammu and Kashmir, could either buy land there or apply for a government job in the state. Now it's a union territory, so a lot has changed. Now, political parties from Jammu and Kashmir have been up in arms, whether it's the National Conference or it's the Congress unit of the party in Jammu and Kashmir or it's the PDP. PDP is calling it a sinister design to change the demographics of Jammu and Kashmir. The Congress party has a similar approach, whereas the National Conference has a slightly more nuanced approach. Joining me on the note this time is one of the senior leaders of the National Conference, a spokesperson as well, Devender Rana. Mr. Rana, thank you so much for joining us on the note. I've been talking to my listeners about the domicile law, and I specifically, as mentioned to you, wanted to talk about it. Let me start by saying that your party, the National Conference, has called the domicile law illegal and unconstitutional. Why?
Illegal and unconstitutional primarily because the party has challenged the abrogation of Article 370 and 35A in the court of law, and our contention with the Honorable Supreme Court is that the entire process, the way it was undertaken, is unconstitutional and betrays the constitutional propriety. And so anything that's an offshoot of this abrogation, according to our party and our party's thought process, is illegal, and hence the domicile law is considered to be illegal. But having said that, we also feel that this domicile law, after the abrogation of Article 370 and 35A, all political leaders of the ruling class and also of the BJP and the functionaries of the government has assured the people of Jammu and Kashmir that the permanent residents of Jammu and Kashmir, who were the state subject holders of Jammu and Kashmir, their rights over their lands and their jobs would be protected. And in a situation where unemployment is burgeoning and land holdings are small, unfortunately the domicile law as it has emerged out betrays that promise also which has been made to the people of Jammu and Kashmir after the abrogation of Article 370 and 35A, that because the domicile law seems to open floodgates and would be detrimental to the interests of the people of Jammu and Kashmir, the permanent residents. Our contention is that the jobs and the land holding must be retained with exclusively the permanent residents of Jammu and Kashmir, because our people, they are from far-flung areas, mountainous areas. Thirdly, now that they have, after 5 years, 3 years of the BJP government and the BJP-PDP government and 2 years of central rule, after 5 years they have advertised jobs. And they made the domicile certificate as an essential requirement for the job. Now people obviously, under the need to apply for the job, will be going for the domicile certificates, and it's a lot of inconvenience. 1 crore 30 lakh people who are the permanent residents have to line up before the Tahsildar and the revenue authority to get their domicile certificate, which looks like an exercise in futility. Somehow, ironically, it seems that we, the residents of Jammu and Kashmir, who are the permanent residents of Jammu and Kashmir, who are legitimately the citizens of India, are being asked to get into an exercise of again getting the certificate that we belong to Jammu and Kashmir. And so I think something is wrong somewhere completely, even in the operational part of the domicile certificate, apart from the legality. And the operational part also betrays what was promised to the people of Jammu and Kashmir. That I'm not justifying that the people wanted this or not, but I'm saying even the operational part also belies the hope of the people that they had created.
But okay, let me ask you this, Mr. Rana. There are political parties like the PDP and many politicians in the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir that are now seeing a demographic design behind this move. That they're saying this is being done at the behest of the RSS by the BJP government to change and alter the demographics of the Union Territory. Let me ask this, and let me be
I would rather not get into that, and I would like to keep the permanent residents of Jammu and Kashmir as an entity, which I would not like to get into the demography of it, into the caste equations of it, because permanent residents of Jammu and Kashmir, be it from any religion, any caste, any region, or any belief, they are all affected by this domicile law. And I think to just talk about demography or giving it a religious color, I think will defeat the interests of the permanent residents. It is,
okay.
See, everywhere, if you look at it, I personally see people in Himachal want their own rights to be preserved. People in Uttarakhand want their rights to be preserved. People in Arunachal want, and there are constitutional guarantees which have been provided. Similarly, certain constitutional guarantees were provided to the permanent residents of Jammu and Kashmir. And I think if we get into the demographic part of it, or we give it a religious color or a regional color, I think we would walk into a quagmire which possibly would help some politics somewhere. And I would desist from that, and I would rather confine myself by saying that the residents of Jammu and Kashmir, who by a residency law which was very robust and brought in by the Maharaja Hari Singh Ji, that robust law has all the protection. There are cliches. I'm not denying it. Like the women, you remember we had one discussion one-on-one when you were there for a marriage and we were together, and about the women.
Yes.
My whole one of your cousins also challenged it, if you remember.
Yes, absolutely.
And I was very candid about it that women, gender bias should not be there. And even in the floor of the assembly, I have said it thrice that the gender bias has to be removed. But there were provisions in the state subject law of the state under the state constitution, wherein those provisions, wherein this change could have been brought in. It didn't require a new law. Those changes could have been addressed. But the rights of the people of Jammu and Kashmir, who are the permanent residents of Jammu and Kashmir, they cannot be, they need protection. And I think we should not get into the religion of it. We should not get into the region of it. And permanent residents as an entity have certain rights
Okay, fair point, Mr. Rana. But let me ask you this, because being a Kashmiri myself, I've had to have several, discussions with people from outside the state where they say, don't Kashmiris or people from Jammu and Kashmir go outside to other parts of India and they buy property, they live there. Then why shouldn't there be a principle of equality? That people from other parts of the country can also go to Kashmir, buy land there, have jobs, so on and so forth. Like I live in Bombay, I'm from Kashmir, and if I have the ability, I can buy a place here as well.
Point well taken. Everybody is welcome, and similarly, we are all citizens of the country, and anybody can go anywhere and work and live. There's no barriers and all. The only thing that we are demanding is that the government has not been able to provide adequate employment to people in Jammu and Kashmir. Our terrain is tough. You know the terrain. There are certain difficulties and challenges. And keeping those difficulties and challenges, first opportunities should be for the people of Jammu and Kashmir. There's no harm in that. Aren't the hills of Uttarakhand being provided those kind of things? Aren't Arunachal people provided that kind of... That doesn't bar people from outside to come. Please, there's a notion that nobody can put up industry here. Please go back to Sheikh Abdullah, 1975. He brought in the provisions wherein you can come here, set up your industry, you can own property which is for 99 years of lease, which is as good lease. But then, yes, provisions have to be in place where employment will be given. There was a provision by the state that 90% of the employees in the private sector will be from Jammu and Kashmir, because, see, Jammu and Kashmir has a problem. You understand. It is not only about unemployment, it is also about unemployability. Mm-hmm. And we need to devise a skill set. We need to create a skill bank of people who can deliver on those things. And we need to create that kind of industry, that kind of opportunities that can involve the local people. It is only to guard the interests of the locals. It is not to bar somebody from coming into Jammu and Kashmir or not having this. And this notion that is being created that outsiders have not come. Please remember that when SKIMS, Sera Kashmir Institute of Medical Sciences, was set up by Sera Kashmir Sheikh Mohammed Abdullah, way back in the mid-70s, all the experts had been brought from outside, and the first director was an outsider. Today also, when we are talking, before the abrogation of Article 370 and 35A, the IIM director, the IIT director are out from outside the state. There is no bar. There are vice chancellors who have been here for many, many years who have been from outside the state. You know, Vice Chancellor of the Kashmir University, Vice Chancellor of the Jammu University. And during Sheikh Abdullah Saab's time, there was Mr. Uppal, who was brought in from Punjab to head the irrigation system of Jammu and Kashmir, and the irrigation system of Jammu, particularly the Ranjan irrigation canal and the Ravi Davi irrigation canal, and the projects in Kashmir were handled by Mr. Uppal, who was from Punjab. Then there were people, Mr. KPS Gill's father was brought in as a power commissioner to run power sector here, and was brought in and put in as power commissioner.
No, there are examples.
Your family has been associated with the services here. You know that many officers were brought in from that state. They were not from the civil services. They were brought into the state and they worked here. They stayed here. So it's not that there's a barrier or somebody. Industries here. You have industries which are here for the last 20, 25 years by outsiders. And you look at the circumstances that we have. The labor component, I don't know how far that is true. There's a claim. I don't know, I can't vouch for the veracity of the claim, but there's a claim that there are about 20 lakh migrant labor in Jammu and Kashmir, which is working on different sectors. So they are all here.
But that is the point that the government is making, Mr. Rana. They're saying that all these migrant laborers come into the valley, or Jammu and Kashmir both. They live there for a certain number of years, but then they don't have any rights per se.
for instance, there are IS officers and others who come into the state, work there for a certain number of years, but neither they nor their children have any rights. And that is what the government is trying to provide through the domicile law. So what would you then tell the centre?
As I said, you to make those changes, you did not need to change the rights of the permanent residents. The state subject law also had a provision where the residency could be conferred on the people. If it was not conferred, please remember there was an effort made by even Dr. Farooq Abdullah Sahab when that Raj Tarangani housing scheme was launched in Jammu and Kashmir to accommodate the IAS and IPS officers who stay here for a certain number of years way back in 80s, and it was at that point of time opposed by all, and so it was shelved. That's beside the point. But I am saying that there are provisions in the state subject law where state subject can be conferred on people. Even during Maharaja's time, certain people who came from Punjab and served the state were conferred. There were generals, General Katoch, who later became the vice chief of the army staff in the country, General Kashmir Singh Katoch. His family was from Himachal. They were conferred the state subject law. There were people from Punjab who were conferred the thing for the services that they rent. So there were provisions. So it didn't require the state subject law to be changed and done. Basic point, Mahrukh, is that we do not have to compromise the rights of the state subjects of Jammu and Kashmir to, we are not the guilty.
Mm-hmm.
Why should I feel a sense of deprivation if I am a citizen of the country as well as the permanent resident of Jammu and Kashmir?
Okay, that answers a lot of my questions. Mr. Rana, you do not want to get into the space that other political parties like the PDP have gotten into by calling it a demographic design by the centre. Then why do you think, and I appreciate that you want to stay away from the politics of religion being brought in and the politics of polarization, then why do you think the centre brought about the domicile law? If it was not to change the demographics of the state, why was it brought in? What do you perceive as the reason?
As I told you in the beginning, Jammu and Kashmir is a theatre for national politics. And if you want a very, very honest, fair comment about it, see, it's the bedrock of their philosophy. The last 70 years they've been talking of ek nishan, ek vidhan, ek pradhan. And so I think it was the bedrock of their philosophy which they have accomplished, and that is how it is. But the people of Jammu and Kashmir, what they actually want and what they desire, it may not be all what is the bedrock of the philosophy of one political party.
Has this caused, you're in Jammu, has this caused a certain sense of insecurity among people of Jammu city just as it has in Kashmir?
See, different people have different thought process. Everybody looks at it from a different point of view. Frankly telling you, people in Jammu and Kashmir, you know how it is. If I get into that politics of that, there's been a divisive politics which has been unleashed over Jammu and Kashmir over the last couple of decades. You have to agree that. And we are creating barriers, and those barriers are walls which, if not broken and demolished, they will get more and more strengthened. And for that you have to also blame the politics of Jammu and Kashmir, and not one, all have to share the blame for the politics that has been unleashed into Jammu and Kashmir over the last couple of decades. But I think it is in the interest of the country and the interest of the people of Jammu and Kashmir that Jammu and Kashmir remains one entity. And the communal divide and the polarization that has crept in over the last couple of years, that needs to be demolished, and an effort has to be done genuinely from all sides to so that there's an intra-Jammu and Kashmir dialogue, intra-Jammu and Kashmir bridges are built, and the bridges which are broken have to be rebuilt so that there is a bonhomie within Jammu and Kashmir. Because over a period of time, whether you agree or not, whether we agree or not, we could be in a denial mode. But yes, there has been a divisive political narrative which has emerged from different corners of the state, from different areas, and I think irresponsibly that has happened. And because of that, there is a lot of fears within Jammu and Kashmir also as of today, and those cannot be denied. If somebody has to really own up Jammu and Kashmir, then those fears have to be broken, and it has to be more of owning people of Jammu and Kashmir than owning Jammu and Kashmir and its people, and the people must get a sense of belonging within themselves. The divisive politics has reached to a point of not only regional division, religious division. Now it is sub-regional things that have emerged, and I think those are things which need to be addressed, and we need to create hope among the generation that is coming, because a situation of hopelessness, if it comes into their minds, they might, and for that, it is a potpourri of different narratives. It's a potpourri of different thought processes. It's a potpourri of different religions. There's a potpourri of different beliefs, political, social, and cultural. Those all have to be integrated in a manner that we create a collage which is multilingual, multidimensional, multicolored. I might sound a little philosophical, but knowing Jammu and Kashmir, with a Kashmir of 5,000 years of civilization and a history, which you are well aware of, many people do not understand that Kashmir by itself is not 1947, Kashmir by itself is not 1930, Kashmir is not 1920, Kashmir is not 1900 years. It is a 5,000-year-old civilization with a well-entrenched written history. And Jammu, with a recorded 4,000 years of history, have their own solid cultural moorings. Those cultural moorings of civilizations cannot be demolished. So they have to be maintained, retained, and assimilated in a manner that it does not encroach on each other.
Okay, Mr. Rana, very passionate about that, and rightly so is what I would say. But let me end by asking you, and a very brief response from you is what I would want on this one. Ever since August 5, since the abrogation of Article 370, the political class of Jammu and Kashmir finds itself forcibly and otherwise on the back foot. If your party, let me only speak about your party, is completely against the Domicile Law, how do you plan to fight it? Don't you see that your powers have been curtailed to a huge extent? Then where will you get the wherewithal to fight these actions being taken unilaterally by the centre?
See, post 5th of August, most of the leadership has been behind restrictions or arrests. And the moment the top leadership was released, COVID was there, and we have not been able to sit together as a working committee and discuss the future course of action. For that, an individual cannot reply. It is for the working committee to sit, discuss, and formulate a strategy. In the meanwhile, yes, we are already in the court, and our stand on the abrogation of Article 370 and 35A is already with the Honorable Supreme Court, and the party's stand is very clearly laid out in the petition filed before the Honorable Supreme Court. However, what is going to be the future strategy, how we have to strategize our movement forward in the given circumstances is something that the working committee has to sit. Unfortunately, after 5th August, because of the circumstances and the arrest of the people and restriction on the people, and then the COVID, and also till today some people are under preventive detention, we are not able to organize a working committee meeting. And unless the working committee happens, sits down, discusses threadbarely the future strategy, as and when we meet, will be rolled out by the leadership.
Okay, Mr. Rana, for being so lucid, expansive, and honest. Thank you so much for speaking with me on The Note.
Thank you. Pleasure always. Thank you.
If you like this podcast, don't forget to check out other interesting podcasts on the IVM network. You can listen to us on the IVM Podcast app or ivmpodcast.com. You can also follow us on our social media. We are @IVM Podcasts on Twitter and Instagram. And if you want to reach out to me, I'm Mahrukh Inayet on Twitter and Mahrukh Inayet on Instagram as well.
How many times have you motivated yourself to improve your sleep or lose weight or be more productive? How many times have you failed? Hi, my name is Ashton Doctor. Tune into my show, The Habit Coach Podcast, where we focus on creating small, tiny habits to improve your life instead of those big, impossible tasks. So make listening to me a habit every Monday, Wednesday and Friday on the IVM Podcast app or ivmpodcast.com or on your favorite podcasting app.
नमस्ते, मैं हूँ सौरभ चंद्रा
और मैं प्रणय कोटस्थाने।
जब महफिल खत्म होते होते दरवाजे के बाहर पुलिया के ऊपर हम दुनिया भर की जटिल समस्याओं को सॉल्व करने में लग जाते हैं तो हो जाती है पुलियाबाजी।
अब आजकल के अपार्टमेंट वालों ने तो कभी पुलिया देखी नहीं होगी, पर आप फीलिंग तो समझ ही सकते हैं।
तो आइए शामिल हो जाइए हमारी पुलियाबाजी में, जहाँ प्रणय और मैं एक से एक इंटरेस्टिंग टॉपिक्स की तह तक जाएंगे।
आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस, बिटकॉइन, पाकिस्तान, मेडिकल एजुकेशन, करेंसी क्राइसिस, कभी हम दोनों के साथ और अक्सर स्पेशल एक्सपर्ट गेस्ट की कंपनी में।
सुनिए हमें IVM की वेबसाइट, ऐप या अपने फेवरेट पॉडकास्टिंग प्लेटफॉर्म पर हर दूसरे हफ्ते।